Welcome to Outlaw Theology with the Whiskey Preacher. I'm your host, Phil Shepard, better known as the Whiskey Preacher. My guest today is none other than the notorious Mr. Christian Piatt. Christian, thank you so much for being on Outlaw Theology with me today.
Hey, thanks, Phil. Appreciate you having me on your esteemed and notorious show.
I know in the past we've talked about having you on here, but I think if my memory serves me correctly, that this is the very first time that you've actually been on Outlaw Theology. I know we've done various projects together, including the one we're getting ready to talk about, but this is the first time you've been on here. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've talked about doing this for a while, but it's never really worked out. We have done a lot of things like live and in person, and yeah, I was happy to have you be a part of this book we're going to talk about. But yeah, so finally, after however many tries, here we are.
The latest project outside of this video that we've worked on together is the Banned from Christianity question series. You are the head director, editor, author of this series. Can you tell us a little bit more about what spawned you to create this band series and what specifically made you want to do this latest book in the series?
Yeah, the series came from an idea that's been germinating for me for decades. I was raised in the Baptist church, and but I also went to a school at the same time that encouraged critical and independent thought and inquiry, questioning everything. And then I go to church and I'd ask questions, and I'd get in trouble. So actually at 17, I was thrown out of church. I actually had a Bible thrown at me by my youth pastor, and I didn't go back to church for 10 years after that. But I endeavored that if I ever came back to organized religion, it would be in an environment where I could ask these difficult questions. And as I became an author and an editor, I thought, why not create that environment in which people can ask those questions and consider them for themselves. Not so much to give them hard and fast answers, but to give them multiple responses to consider and then to formulate their own ideas. So I'm going to totally exploit your video format here. And so, yeah, the first one was banned questions about the Bible. And we've got like a dozen people who wrote for that, responding to 50 questions. So you have like 2 to 5 responses for every question. And so that one was received really well. I think it's in its 4th or 5th printing. So we created another one, banned questions about Jesus. And that one, focuses specifically on what did Jesus say about homosexuality, and why did Jesus have to suffer, or did he? Things like that. So the newest one, which includes Mr. Whiskey Preacher himself, which comes out in January, is Banned Questions About Christians. And this one's got a lot of great folks in it, from Bart Campolo, Doug Pagitt, Carol Howard Merritt, Matthew Paul Turner, and so on in it. The idea behind that one is that so many people have so many questions about us as Christians, like in this sort of post-Christian reality, this culture we're in. Why be a Christian? And there are a lot of assumptions and stereotypes and biases about Christians that we should really engage in a thoughtful way. So it's not like an apologetic trying to defend Christians, but answering things like, why we do communion, or do we all believe in literal physical resurrection, and things like that. So it's really just meant to broaden the conversation, to blur those lines between the sacred and the secular, Christians and non-Christians, and to get us to reflect on why it is we are what we say we are.
Jokingly on Twitter, we have been talking about this past week that if your name was Phil and you were asked by you to be a contributor in this latest band series book, that we were a shoo-in. What is there, something like 3 Phils in this book?
Yeah, I actually didn't even think about it until I was putting the whole book together after everybody had responded. But yeah, I've got you, Phil Shepherd. I've got my good friend Phil Snyder, and also a fellow Red Letter Christians and pastor Phil Jackson. So yeah, it's the onslaught of the Phils. So if you have something against the name Phil, then definitely do not pick up this book because you will be incredibly disappointed.
I only know Phil Schneider, and we are two out of the three Phils that have been a part of this project. But I'm pretty sure, and it's safe to say, that I am the best looking Phil out of all of us that have been contributors to this book. Don't you think?
From an entirely impartial and objective perspective, I mean, you are a handsome man, and honestly, really, that's the main reason I asked you to be a part of that project. Was just because of your animal magnetism.
Now, let's dive into the real reason why I have you on here. This is a new project that you're spearheading, which is a novel that you're wanting to publish, self-publish, and you're doing it through the Kickstarter program. Can you tell us a little bit about why you're wanting to write a novel and why you've chosen to do it self-publishing versus going with a standard publisher, and why did you choose then to do it through Kickstarter?
Yeah, well, I work with Kathy Helmers, who's my literary agent, on all my nonfiction work, and I presented this book to her a while back, which I had actually finished before I even signed on with her as my agent. But she kind of said, hey, we need to either take you down the fiction route or the nonfiction route, but I don't want to create too much brand confusion by presenting both to these publishers at the same time. So I really felt that my main platform is nonfiction. That's my main voice on the blogs and other books that I've written and everything. But this other piece, Blood Doctrine, is a real passion project. I worked on it for 18 months, and I've really, really felt a desire to get it out there and to let people read it. So she said, the thing is, you can self-publish. And I thought, well, yeah, it's a cool idea, but at the same time, a lot of self-published books end up looking kind of like, well, self-published books. And so I didn't want that. I wanted it to be as legit and as high quality as anything else that I put out. So I started kind of imagining what that would look like. So I went to best-selling novelist and also nonfiction writer Frank Schaeffer, and he read the book and he loved it, and offered to help me edit it and fine-tune it into the best story it could possibly be. I talked to Matthias Valdez at Last Leaf Printing in Colorado, who designed the cover for my memoir, Pregnancy, which came out last year. I thought he did a great job on that, and I asked him to step in and do the design for this one. And then I also have been working with Caleb Sealing at Samistad Creative on doing everything else from proofreading, copy editing, typesetting, setting up and getting printed the hard copies and formatting the ebooks, and even sales and distribution, all that kind of stuff that has to happen to make a book work. But this was going to cost money, and so we put the budget together. I was like, well, I don't have the scratch to do this myself. So maybe if people believe in it, I can put it out there on Kickstarter and see if I can offer rewards like signed books or in-person book discussion groups or web discussion groups, limited edition T-shirts and stuff like that for people who believe in supporting this kind of project. And so we kicked it off, and so far it's going great. We're at about 40% of the goal, and we've got another 2.5 weeks to go.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the premise of the novel itself, and when did it start brewing inside of you when you wanted to write this?
Well, there were a couple of news stories that happened a few years ago that really kind of stirred my interest. There was the so-called Jesus tomb, in which there was this ossuary found, and they thought maybe that there were like the bones or some physical remains of Jesus found there. And at the same time, there was also a story that I found about this date palm, these collection of date palm seeds that were found that were 5,000 years old, I think, and they were found in some of these clay jars, kind of like the Dead Sea Scrolls were preserved in. And they were in the caves, like in around Qumran, where the Essenes, these mystical monks, kind of hung out and reportedly, maybe even wrote or hid the Dead Sea Scrolls. So, and interestingly, they tested these date palm seeds, and the DNA inside of these date palm seeds were still intact, and they were able to actually plant them, clone them, and grow them into date palms today. And I thought, wow, if you combine those two things, I've seen Jurassic Park, and I've thought, what if, Jesus came back? And I thought, well, what if through modern science we were actually able to invoke the second coming by resurrecting Jesus ourselves? So that's kind of the premise of the book. This group with the sort of less than savory intentions has gotten a hold of this, and they actually in vitro fertilize an egg, and they have a surrogate, and hijinks ensue. I mean, it's a suspense thriller with religious themes. I wouldn't say it's a Christian novel per se, although it certainly has a lot of Christian themes throughout it, but it is definitely not left behind kind of material. It's typical heretical content like you would expect from me, I guess.
If people want to donate to this Kickstarter program to help you self-publish this amazing sounding novel that you're wanting to do, how can people do that? Where can they find and be a part of this project?
Well, the link is kind of ridiculously long. It's got numbers and letters and weird random crap in it, so I won't try to share that. But if they go to Kickstarter, Kickstarter.com, and then go to there are different divisions within that or categories of projects. So if you go to publishing, and then from there you click on fiction, it's one of the top ones there right now. It's pretty easy to find. You'll see my face, and you'll see the words Blood Doctrine on there, and you just click on it, and you pick a reward level, everything from a $10 support level where you get an ebook to $1,250 if you want me to come to your I guess I could come to your house or your church or your organization or whatever, and actually do a live in-person event, plus a box of books, signed books to go along with it. And you can also just friend me on Facebook, Christian Piatt, or find me on Twitter, and I'm sending those links out also on my blog at Patheos. And I've got the information on there. But also, I guess, check on the Whiskey Preacher links. You'll have it linked there as well. So we really are just asking people to support it. We're trying to make 100 backers by Christmas. We're at 75 right now. We're 40% of the way to the goal. And also asking people, in addition to supporting it at whatever level they can, minimum is $1. To also share it with friends who believe in independent publishing, who are fans of fiction, and who just want to support this sort of what I feel like is an ambitious endeavor. We really appreciate any support we can get.
Christian, thank you so much for being a part of Outlaw Theology. Thank you for sharing about the Banned Question series, and thank you so much for sharing about this new project that you're, again, going head first with, and which I'm excited to be a part of in any which way I can be. How can people find you? What is your Twitter, Facebook? Where can folks find your different books that you've put out over the last handful of years?
Yeah, the easiest way to find me is to go to christianpiatt.com, and then you can link to my blog. You can link to our homebrewed Christianity Culture Cast podcast that we do every week. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook, but if you want to go directly to Twitter, it's twitter.com/Christian Piatt. Facebook, it's facebook.com/Christian Piatt author. And then on Patheos, you can find me just by searching my name, Patheos.com. And I'm in the Progressive Christian channel, just like Phil, and we'll see you there. Hit me up. Let me know that you heard from me on the Whiskey Preacher, because I'd always love to know where my new friends come from.
Thanks again, Christian, for joining us, and have a great holiday, and I look forward to working with you again very soon.
Thank you, my brother, and Merry Christmas to you and to all of your followers as well. Tip one back for me now or on Christmas or both, and cheers.
As we wrap up this interview, I've got a challenge I want to throw out to you all who are viewers of Outlaw Theology. Christian needs 21 more backers to keep him on track for his Kickstarter to get his novel published in 2014. I'm issuing you all a challenge to help be one of those 21 backers. I provided the link below, so you can just click on it and find out how much you can donate. No, this is not a telethon. No, I'm not a televangelist, even though some of you would like to think I am. I want to help kickstart creativity. You like that? By helping Christian out with his novel. Thanks again for joining us here on Outlaw Theology, and I look forward to hearing your comments